Okay, so in the first video, this is actually not a homemade soup, but I did want to share it with you because it's really good. And it's actually something I make when I have a lot going on and I need something really quick, so which is the case tonight. So it's this Bear Creek Country Kitchen's tortilla soup, and I get it at Walmart, and it's right under $4, and it says it makes 8 servings, and it does. It makes a whole lot. And I like to add corn, my own corn, to it because I don't think it has enough. And then I also add a half-pound ground beef or ground chicken like this, and then once I cook that, then I put the soup in and let that cook. And then I like to crush tortilla chips over the top, or you can put Fritos, you can put cheese, you can put sour cream. Okay, so I just cooked the meat, and then I added some frozen corn and 8 cups of water, which I brought to a boil. And now I'm just gonna dump the soup in. This is what it looks like. And reduce the heat to medium and cook it for 10 minutes. Okay, there's the soup finished, and I'm gonna put some cheese on top and some crushed up tortilla chips. And it's perfect for this rainy fall night. Alright, so tonight I am gonna make a homemade broccoli cheese soup. So I'm going to show you the ingredients that I will be using, and this is a recipe that I have made many times for many years, and every time it turns out just a little bit different, but it's a Panera Bread broccoli cheese soup recipe if you want to look it up online. But these are the things that I'm going to be using: carrots, a bunch of cheese. I like to get these baby broccoli florets, onion, and I have about a half an onion here that I'll be using, some butter, half and half, flour, salt and pepper, and it calls for chicken stock, but I like to use these because it's a whole lot cheaper to buy a thing of these than chicken stock every time I need it. And of course I'll be adding water and then some nutmeg. First thing I'm going to do is cut up the onions and saute them in some butter. When these are getting translucent, I'm going to remove them from the heat. And I'm going to add 1/4 of a cup of butter and 1/4 of a cup of flour and make a roux. And I always just kind of add all this. Now that I have my roux, I'm going to add some half and half and some chicken stock, which is just the bouillon cubes and water. Now this has to simmer for 20 minutes. Now I'm going to whisk it real good just to make sure everything is dissolving. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes that this has been simmering. So now I'm going to add the vegetables to the pot. I have about 3 carrots that I just shredded, and then the onions that we sauteed earlier. I'm going to add those. It says about 1 cup of carrots, but I always add a little bit more because I like a lot of carrots. It also says about 8 ounces of broccoli, but I use this whole bag, which is 12.5 ounces. You're going to cook this for about 25 minutes until the vegetables are tender. Okay, so it's been about 25 minutes and the vegetables are tender and they have cooked down. So now I'm going to take this immersion blender, and I'm going to mix it, not all the way puree, but just kind of like halfway chop up the broccoli pieces. So I'm going to just do that in the pan. Right now I'm just going to add some salt and pepper, just kind of to taste. You can always add more if you need to. And then I'm going to add in, it says 16 ounces of cheese. This is about 16 ounces. You can do more or less to your taste. Just gonna stir that in really good. And it is almost ready. Last thing I'm gonna do is just add a little ground nutmeg to it. So that's it. Now I'm gonna enjoy a warm bowl of soup on this cold, rainy fall night. There it is in a bowl. It's really delicious, and this time it wasn't as silky smooth as sometimes it is. I still haven't figured out why sometimes it's smoother than others, but it is delicious and it's full of vegetables, so I think it's pretty healthy. You know, with the cream and the cheese, at least you're getting some dairy. But anyway, I'm going to enjoy this bowl of broccoli cheese soup. Okay, so tonight I am going to make some taco stew. So this is actually a very simple recipe, and usually I make it in the crock pot, but today I did not get it in the crock pot in time, so I'm just going to do it on the stove and just simmer it for a good half hour or so, and it really has the same flavor. So in this recipe, it calls for corn, 1.5 cups of corn, and I just had this leftover frozen corn, so I'm just using that. A can of stewed tomato, or not stewed tomatoes. These are diced tomatoes with green chilies, same thing as Rotel, that's the Walmart brand. A can of diced tomatoes. I always like to get the petite diced, and you need to not drain any of these cans. You just dump them in the way they are. A can of ranch style beans, and I chose to use black beans, but you can use kidney beans, pinto beans, chili beans, whatever kind of beans you like, but definitely use a can of these. These are so good. I grew up eating these in Texas, and I was so excited when I could find them up here. So those are the canned goods, and then you need a pack of taco seasoning and a pack of ranch seasoning. I like to get the spicy ranch or the Fiesta ranch. Just adds a little bit of a Mexican flavor. And then you need some ground beef. This is actually ground turkey. You can use turkey, chicken, beef, whatever. And I'm only using a 1/2 pound. It calls for 10 ounces, but you can put as much or as little meat as you want. And then I'm making this on the side because I just love everything that Krusty's makes. So some cornbread to go on the side. So that is going to be dinner tonight. Okay, the meat is cooked, so now I'm just going to add the cans of vegetables. And just going to add the rest of the ingredients and let this simmer for about 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. Well, pretty simple. I'm just going to let that simmer down for a little while and let the flavors mix together, and that is dinner. There is my taco stew or taco soup and some honey cornbread, and it will taste delicious on this cool fall evening. Hope you try this and enjoy it. It's super, super quick when you have a busy day and you know you don't have a lot of time to make dinner. The soup I'm going to make today is not technically a soup, but it is made in the crock pot, and it, you know, basically is a soup. It's chicken and dumplings. I don't necessarily like chicken and dumplings, but this is the best chicken and dumplings I've ever had. So it is super easy. It's on my Pinterest board if you're interested, under the best chicken and dumplings ever. It is originally a Crockin' Girls recipe, so it's also on their website. But I'm just going to show you what I am going to use, and I'm just basically going to dump all of this into my crock pot to cook. So it's a cup of carrots, cup of onions, cup of celery, which is basically your base for most soups. I'm going to put this whole thing of chicken tenderloins in, and 6 chicken bouillon cubes, and I'm also going to add 3.5 cups of water to this, and then a can of cream of chicken soup and cream of celery. One thing I forgot to mention is you do need 2 tablespoons of butter, but I am out of butter, so as soon as I put this in, I'm going to head out and get some butter to put in here.
Okay, so this has to cook for 8 hours on low or 4 hours on high, but I'm going to do the 4 hours on high only because it's later in the day. But 3 hours into it, I'm going to do the next step. So for right now, I'm just going to put it on high for 3 hours, and then I'll show you what I'll be doing next. Alright, it's been 3 hours, so I took the chicken out and it was cooked and it was tender, and so I just shredded it up, and I'm going to dump this back into the crock pot. I'm going to take a can of biscuits, and I just got these Grand's buttermilk, but you can do any kind of biscuits. Probably cut each biscuit into sixths and then put them into the crock pot to continue cooking for another hour. Okay, so now it is done. It cooked for about 4.5 hours, and the dumplings are cooked, and it smells delicious. So that is chicken and dumplings. It's easy, it's just a little time consuming. You just have to plan ahead when you make it, but it's pretty simple. Okay, so the last soup I'm going to show you is my favorite soup of all time. It is loaded baked potato soup. So the recipe calls for 6 large potatoes, but these are not that large, so this is about how many I'm using. Just depends on the size that you have, and really you can do as many as you want. I need some garlic, and this is the kind that I like to use. It's just quicker than mincing it up. Some heavy cream, butter. You can use chicken broth or chicken bouillon cubes and water, so that's what I'm using. Salt and pepper, and cheese. And at the end, I'll be topping it with more cheese and some crumbled up turkey bacon. Okay, so somehow I forgot to mention the most important ingredient other than the potatoes is an onion. 1 large onion chopped up. This is, you don't omit this, even if you don't like onion. This is what gives it all the flavor, and this is what you're going to smell while it's cooking. This is what makes it so delicious. Okay, so it calls for 3 cloves of garlic, so I'm just going to squeeze a good amount of this in. Put some salt and pepper. I'm going to add 1/4 cup of butter, 4 bouillon cubes, and 4 cups of water. I'm just going to stir this up, and then I'm going to cook this. Since it is afternoon, I'm going to cook it on high for 4 hours, or you can do low for 8 hours. And after it's cooked for 4 hours, I'm going to go back and I'm going to add the cheese and the cream and blend up the potatoes and mash them up, and it's going to be amazing. Okay, so it's been 4 hours. I want to let you know that we are in the process of redoing our countertops, so that's why this is a mess. That's why everything looks a mess, but make sure you check out that video on my channel. What I'm going to do now is just mash the potatoes with a potato masher. Okay, so it's about 1 cup of cheese, 1 cup of heavy cream. I have about 1/2 cup in here, and then about another 1/2 cup in here. And then I'm going to let this cheese melt really good, and then it will be ready to eat. I'm just going to cook some turkey bacon and cheese to crumble on top, because that sends it over the top when you do that. So I'm going to let this thicken up for maybe another 30-45 minutes while I cook the bacon, and then it will be ready. Alright, there's the potato soup, and I just added some cheese and turkey bacon on top. And like I said, this is my favorite soup. It's amazing. I hope you like this video. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to give it a like if you like recipe videos. And subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.